When you imagine gods, do you imagine all-powerful beings who are absolutely perfect and superior to mortals in every possible way? Or do you think of almost all-powerful beings who are exceptional in their respective area of expertise, but still flawed to extreme points? Either way, the second option sounds more entertaining, right? Well, in Norse mythology, the gods aren't perfect, most certainly flawed. Norse mythology is great entertainment because it allows for a story of conflict among beings who typically would be considered above such conflicts. It's this measure of entertainment that is allowed for the adaptation of Norse mythology into modern media. I personally have a fondness for video games and movies, and I also really enjoy when Norse mythology is adapted into modern media. Because of this, I want to share with you how dysfunctional family relationships from Norse mythology have been portrayed through modern media, such as video games like God of War, as well as movies like Marvel's Thor. We can start with God of War. Although I haven't finished the game yet, I do really enjoy the growth that I've seen of the characters in the game. The main character is Kratos, and without going into details, Kratos' life before the newest game was full of despair and rage over the loss of his previous family. In the newer God of War game, Kratos seeks redemption and peace with his new family. However, at the beginning of the new God of War game, Kratos is in mourning with his son over his wife Faye's death. Faye's wish was for her family, to carry her ashes and spread them at the top of a mountain. Now, the goal of God of War may be to bring Faye's ashes to the top of a mountain and spread them. The appeal of God of War is most certainly the progress made between father and son throughout the journey to the top of the mountain. Atreus was always closer with his mother, and because of this, when she died, he was angry at her for leaving him all alone He was angry at her for leaving him all alone with his father. One of Atreus' greatest fears was of his father leaving him, just like he believes his mother left him alone, and he'd be all alone. Kratos, on the other hand, his greatest fear was of Atreus dying, and the idea of losing a son for the second time terrified him. Also, it was because Atreus was always close with his mother and not his father that Kratos really struggled to relate to his son throughout their journey, or at least at the beginning of the journey, and fair bit into it. Cory Barlog, the director of the most recent God of War game, said in an interview with The Verge in 2016, which can be seen in an article titled God of War's New Head Dad on Kratos' Daddy Issues by Andrew Webster, "This is a guy who can go up against a giant atlas and not flinch, but the idea of giving his kid a hug scares the hell out of him because he doesn't know how to relate. It's this struggle to connect with his son that makes God of War so great. It's the slow and steady, perfectly paced journey where the player can experience everything Kratos experiences as if they're really playing through his perspective that makes the game so great." As you can see in this image right here, Kratos is hesitant to put his arm around his son and comfort him in a time in which he is really contemplating something he did. Now, if I compare this image to an image at the very end, when Kratos doesn't hesitate at all to put his arm around his son and comfort him when they are spreading Faye's ashes at the top of the mountain, there's a very clear difference between the two that is important to show the growth between the beginning and the end. It's clear to see the progress that Kratos made with becoming more attached to his son. It's clear that throughout the entire journey, they became close enough that he could feel comfortable enough to put his arm around him. My other example of Norse mythology being portrayed in modern media would be Marvel's character Thor and his family. Thor, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is the rightful heir to the throne of Asgard. He is also very powerful and considered to be the god of lightning and thunder. On the other side of this family struggle is Loki, god of mischief, and also the son of Odin, and therefore Thor's brother. In the movie The Avengers, released to theaters in 2012, Loki is taken by Thor, and Loki has an argument with Thor. In this argument, Loki vents to Thor about his feelings of betrayal, anger, and jealousy. Loki found out he was adopted and would have no right to his father's throne, which caused him to resent his brother. On the other side of the argument, Thor exclaims that he still cares for Loki, even though Loki has always opposed him for plenty of years and throughout many Marvel movies. In an interview with Chris Hemsworth, the actor who plays Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in 2012, which can be found at Geek Tyrant, titled Chris Hemsworth Talks About Thor and Loki's Relationship in Thor 2. Chris Hemsworth said, "It's what I love about comics. It was never clean and cut. And that's it. It was always like, Thor will forgive him, they'd be friends, and Loki would betray him all over again. You idiot, Thor, again? But it was different than your normal good guy, bad guy scenario. They're brothers, you know? Anyone with siblings understands that. That's it. I'm never talking to you again," followed by, "Want to play football." Thor and Loki's relationship truly began to blossom in Thor Ragnarok when they had to spend the majority of the movie together. It was in Thor Ragnarok that you could truly see Thor and Loki's relationship begin to grow. You now know a couple of examples of dysfunctional families in modern media that are inspired by Norse mythology. To review, I summarized God of War's story and the importance of the journey for Kratos and Atreus, and also Thor and Loki's difficulty in their relationship due to Loki's adoption and greed for Asgard's throne. I suppose anyone could relate to the difficulty that families often impart upon each other. As of the adaptation of Norse mythology to modern media, it's interesting to see the theme of overcoming the difficulty of connecting with one's family through mutual effort shown in separate media with completely different settings.